The Greenskins, and in particular the Goblins, are often described as brutally cunning, and I think that honestly describes Sladex as a player as well. Today he's going to put that cunning to good work to try and outwit this Vampire Coast player. So let's go ahead and take a look at the builds real quick here. Starting out, we've got the Death Creepers, Mangy Marauders, 2 Regiment of Renown Skirmish Cavalry out there on the side. And as for the rest here, we've got the 8 Peak Loons, Ragnarok Queen, the Durkit Squigs. It's like a all Regiment of Renown army, pretty much. Rusty Errors, Hammer of Gork, the Biggin, and the Broken Tusk Mob with Wurzag. Newly nerfed, but still quite decent. And they're all facing off against this Vampire Coast horde. We've got some cannons here, 2, well, 1 carronade, 1 mortar, along with some handgun mobs and polearms up front. Looks like some deckhands in the back, as well as some animated hulks and depth guard, with Bloody Reaver depth guard also there in the back. Looks like, yeah, Count Noctilus also trolling here. I do see 1 unit in the corner. Looks like the Moon Howlers, the Regiment of Renown Wolf Riders, looking to get in here and perhaps get on these cannons for the time being. Slade's going to keep a lot of his forces back and kind of do some artillery skirmishing. He's summoning up some spiders here to run in and try and get some attacks done, handling this gunnery mob no problem. It is not a summoned gunnery mob, that is actually a real one, so just starting to chew a tiny bit of value. Those Spiderling summons are honestly really nice. Summons are probably the strongest ability. Arguable if it's, you know, stronger than healing. Maybe healing is potentially stronger in some situations, but I would say summons are definitely up there. So having it as a Regiment of Renown ability is just awesome. But yeah, all RORs here as Slade tries to get it done. He's going to counterfire a little bit here. The Biggin, of course, the Rogue Idol Regiment of Renown, can throw rocks a la a Cygor. You see the Mourngul Haunter also comes back to terrify away these skeletons, but all of this kind of skirmish and disruption, and also some light cavalry now emerging from the woods. You can see Durkit Squigs running an attack, kind of go one way, juke the other way, collapse on the carronades. We also got some more Spiderling summons coming through, potentially. The Bloody Reavers just kind of bypass them. The Moon Howlers also lurking here, and slow skeletons, or zombies rather, of the Vampire Coast. Once they react, it's very hard to get them back in a position where they need to be, and just generally their slow speed makes them very tough to position well, and as a result the light cavalry of the Greenskins is able to land home, take out both these artillery pieces, which pays for both of the cavalry, incidentally, even if the value isn't necessarily reflected at the end screen. Definitely just tactically taking those guys out also is huge. It allows these 2 Regiment of Renowns to work. Hammer of Gork, still plenty of ammunition left, although only 1 artillery piece survived that counter exchange. Looks like the rest of them all got blasted by carronades, which is most unfortunate, but Rogue Idol, still plenty of HP left, can sacrifice some of it to continue refreshing its ammunition. And as a result, the Greenskins will have some really nice long-range skirmish potential as this game starts to go on. They're going to kind of pressure Vampire Coast to come to them. It does end up costing some, although the Durkit Squigs are able to somewhat escape there and actually start to finish off some gunnery mobs there. Handgun mobs still staying firm. Haven't really taken too much damage. Not sure what did damage those deck droppers either. It must have been these 2 skirmish calves, which definitely took some damage and got routed off. Now just chilling there in the woods for the time being. Can come back in and use up the rest of the ammunition at a later time. But yeah, at this point it's going to be a little bit of an artillery defense situation. Slade's kind of switches stances to a degree. He's going to start playing a little bit more defensively as he kind of works off of this artillery. But let's fast forward a little bit through this phase as he kind of plinks away. The Biggin continuing to just chuck rocks wherever it can. The Hammer of Gork, not going to do a ton of damage, but does apply that blinded debuff, so once the melee gets underway. Vampire Coast not really wanting to commit, though, despite the fact that they are outranged by this artillery. Want to continue to just fall back here, and that's fine. They're going to leave themselves a little bit more out in the open, where Slade's units can potentially just keep chewing out some value, throwing some rocks at the depth guards there without protection of any jungle trees or anything. You can see the skirmish gav starting to work up and around now as well. Take some shots at those animated hulks, maybe at the depth guards as well. So just chewing value. while the Vampire Coast player chooses not to engage here. Does come forward and actually gets a summon, looks like, on the remaining Hammer of Gork. Artillery piece, not going to do all that much, honestly, to shut it down, since it is just the one artillery piece, but it does give the Biggin something to fight in melee momentarily. Broken Tusk Mob come forward and try and kind of bait this Mourngul Haunter away, which ends up working out fairly well. Looks like it's mostly separated from any support. Well, not totally. There are some zombie polearms in position. A little bit of an effigy to get, and it looks like maybe a Foot of Gork as well, value-wise. Questionable, but at the same time, absolutely just deletes this unit. Huge HP damage, doesn't quite actually kill them, but yeah. Tactically, to just get rid of that support unit so that this Ragnarok Queen can now work against the Haunter perhaps a little bit more effectively. 8 Peak Loons also moving in for some support as well. Noctilus going to throw down his little bombardment, but it's targeted a little bit strangely. Will it actually do some damage? Does some damage, nothing crazy. Bloody Reaver is also collapsing in here now as well. So, yeah, both players running a little bit thin. Vampire Coast definitely up against the white line at this point. The Skirmish Scavs are going to come forward, but just severely outgunned by the zombie handguns there. We'll likely lose that fight, but it's big single entity grind getting underway as the Ragnarok fights the wolves and the goblins, and the wolf goblins, of course, all supporting here. Yeah, the animated Hulks are definitely in for a good time. And just in general, Greenskins have a lot more value locally and should be able to trade effectively, especially now with WA popping off. Wurzag, where's Wurzag? Not really sure. Haven't really been paying that close attention to him. He's now currently involved with the Bloody Reaver Depth Guard, completely surrounded by them. Not a pleasant situation for him at all, but that's okay. It's actually on foot, not on his pig, so he won't be subject to that anti-large bonus, but still, just their high combat stats will likely wear him down fairly quickly. Yeah, do see it happening there. But another Foot of Gork going to be popping off here, trying to go after those Depth Guard as they get caught up in the Spiderlings, just sacking the Spiderlings. And, yeah, does a decent amount of damage. That was probably worth it in the end. So let's see if Wurzag can escape. Little Brain Burst to there, try and get himself out of trouble. Just the mass to knock over the Depth Guard so he can escape there. It's definitely worth it. But this melee grind is starting to turn a little bit against the Greenskins, perhaps, but a devastating unleashing of the Fanatics here as they just carve a bloody swath through a massive amount of zombies here, helping to clear several amounts of chaff, I would say, whatever denomination of measurement you want to use. What would you use for chaff? A pallet, perhaps? Not really sure anyone's ordering pallets of chaff. Maybe some of the Horde factions, who knows. Anyway. Yeah, a little bit of an invocation of the heck for Coast to try and sustain this blob, heal up some of these higher value units, and Greenskins are definitely taking some damage, but the Rogue Idol's just lurking in the distance right now, not even engaging in melee, just resting, getting its vigor back. Wurzag also FG to get, and then nice Foot of Gork, although that Enrage passive, massive damage resistance, ward save, does prevent quite a bit of the damage from getting through, so good reaction there by the Vampire Coast player to try and prevent a lot of that damage. Obviously, sub gets through, but still, every little bit counts, especially in a close game like this, but man, the Hammer of Gork getting back online, the damage doesn't mean much, but that blinded effect now is going to be super important. It lowers the stats, even of these Bloody Reavers, significantly, to the point where they're basically like low-tier infantry, so it's going to be pretty important to try and keep that debuff up for as long as possible while these other units fight. We'll see, though. It's not looking great for the Greenskins at this particular point, but of course the Rogue Idol still like 14,000 HP left, about 4,000 HP, a little under that for the Ragnarok Queens, so we'll see. Perhaps the Greenskins can start to pull out some miracles here, but Wurzag hiding the bombs is actually quite good also. They're going to do very little damage to him. There's not really a lot of great targets for them to shoot out at this point, to be honest. Maybe just nuke these Moonhowlers real quick. But looks like the Bloody Reavers are going to try and get through, shut down the Hammer of Gork, shut down that blinded debuff. I guess it won't end up mattering that much at the end of the day. Empire Coasts are able to shut it down. Let's see, Noctilus also finding the Biggin with Wah active. A huge hit there, takes him down below quarter HP. And, yeah, 750 weapon strength with the Biggin. While Wah's active there. And it's definitely heard no bell yet. It's got plenty of HP left and plenty of leadership as well. In fact, it's unbreakable, so it will absolutely fight to the bitter end. And right now, the rest of the Greenskin forces are continuing to just trade as well as they can. Rusty Airs here getting a little bit of damage on the Bloody Reavers. Nice as they kind of chase down the Hammer of Gork crew there. Wurzhag actually fighting the Deck Droppers in melee. We're going to see the summoned Spiderlings move in to assist. Finish off these bombers, bail out Wurzhag so we can keep casting spells if possible. Error kicking in for the Spiderling summoned here to defend the center, and the Ragnarok Spiders definitely regretting some life decisions as the Morgul Haunter reaches its healing cap. It's going to be anyone's game at this point, but definitely the Bloody Reavers need to unify with Noctilus and rush in and together, you know, fight this Biggin all as a cohesive unit. If they manage to fight them separately, the Biggin has a much better chance of just finishing everything off here. Definitely, like the Haunter, plus Noctilus, plus the Bloody Reavers is going to be a lot. I mean, Biggin's still got a lot of HP, though. 12,000 HP and dropping, but still. Of course, as it gets more damaged, it will suffer armor debuffs and gain additional weapon strength and eventually Rampage. So, potentially very strong in the late game, but we'll see. Spider isn't going to stick around for it as it gets routed off here. The Death Creepers actually do have regeneration, so they'll be slightly healing their HP in this late game. I believe they also have a Vigor refresh, or no, maybe not. Just been resting a little bit here and there. But a lot of deckhands left still. Summon Spiders moving in. Wurzhag getting routed by the Morgul Haunter there is painful. But the Rusty Air is actually... The Bloody Reavers just decide not to chase them down. Instead, unify with Noctilus, like I said, close in on the Idol. So, let's see here. We're getting close and watch the Idol. Definitely one of the most beautiful units in Total War Warhammer, as it works against these foul zombies. Bloody Reavers come through, Noctilus comes through, and, I mean, it's all well and good for Noctilus to try and engage here, but if he just gets, you know, seal clubbed by the Rogue Idol, who's already at its first weapon strength buff threshold, it's going to be quite painful for him. He's down now below 1,000 HP, recovering some from the hunger. And Rogue Idol now 2v1, though, with these single entities. Gets another huge hit on Noctilus. Actually forces Noctilus into crumbling, and he will crumble out. That is absolutely massive for the Greenskins. Gonna give huge leadership debuffs, and like all the zombie deckhands pretty much go into crumbling. Even the Bloody Reavers themselves start to crumble as well. And suddenly it just turns into a bad leadership situation, a rare bad leadership situation for an undead faction. Morgul kind of disengages there, pulls back. Biggin's getting pummeled, though, on HP right now, just rapidly losing HP up to almost 1,000 weapon strength. One hit. Ooh, there it is. Just an absolute justice strike right in the head of the Haunter. Gonna force him into crumbling as well. Oh, man, it's gonna be a close one. Rusty Airs desperately kiting. This is actually really good, though. It gets the Bloody Reavers away from the Biggin and allows him to just finish off the rest of these deckhands, no problem. So, some pretty, again, cunning, brutally cunning, and cunningly brutal as well, with the Big Idol just smashing there in the background. These nasty, sneaky gobos just leading the Bloody Reavers far astray. And Biggin's still going to be taking a little bit of damage from these zombie pull-arms, but nothing like those Bloody Reavers. And the Ragnarok Queen bears witness to these events and is going to go tell its people in the mountains about it. As the Rogue Idol finishes off the deckhands there. Oh man, those Rusty Airs are not really feeling their leadership. Wurzhag is also somehow back and still dancing out in the distance as he also kites some crumbling deckhands. At this point, the end of the Vampire Coast feels inevitable. The very tattered 800 HP Bloody Reaver Depth Guard cannot win against 1,400 HP's worth of the Rogue Idol, I don't think. But let's fast forward and find out as this game finally draws to a close. Quite the epic, I must say, of the Greenskins. And yep, just wins on leadership. The rare victory of the Greenskins' leadership over Vampire Coast. A lot of that, of course, comes down to the fact that the Rogue Idol is, in fact, unbreakable, but what a performance from it. Biggin definitely shines through and is the massive carrying pillar of this build. 4,000 damage value, almost 30,000 total damage dealt. That's just ridiculous, honestly. The Ragnarok Queen also gets really nice value, 14,000 damage, 21,000 gold value, plus the summons added on to that. It's got to be, you know, well over 2,500, I would guess. Broken Tusk Mob also did a pretty decent job. The Hammer of Gork doesn't get a lot of value in and of themselves, but that blinded debuff was nice at times. Some nice fanatics as well. Durkit Squigs getting in, taking out the artillery. With the Moon Howlers, both of them pay for themselves just instantly, and then Skirmish Cab also pay for themselves. Basically, every single unit for Slade was cost effective, and it's hard not to be cost effective with the Greenskins Regiments of Renown, given they're so cheap and good generally. So I'd love to see this build, and it actually ends up winning out in quite the epic fashion. I do like this build from Vampire Coast as well. Haunters are quite decent in this matchup, as proven here. Depth Guard also go pretty good way of paying towards paying for themselves. The artillery, on the other hand, does not, and the Greenskin's sneakiness is able to get in and shut them down. I would say from the outset in this matchup, I don't know that I would really take a lot of artillery, just because Greenskins are probably the best, if not most numerous, light cavalry faction in the game, and protecting artillery against them can be extremely challenging at times. So I might just trade those two out for the Necrofex. Specifically, the Flamethrower one gives a leadership debuff, also can clear out a lot of hordes of infantry potentially, or just other lowered leadership units. In this particular build, it might have still struggled. Would have been okay in the single entity fights, giving a little bit of extra, you know, against the Rogue Idol and such. Hard to say exactly, but hopefully you guys enjoyed this. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.